welcome to Pivot, Pause, Promote, the show for leaders that don't let anything stand in their way. And welcome back, Texas. Today is May 1st, and it is the day that we are opening up. Some businesses are opening, some are not. Hours here, we're keeping our staff at home, but we're nevertheless excited to see other offices starting to open up. Today, we've got a really exciting show for you, and we're talking about preparation and getting back to work. I'm going to introduce our first panelist, Philip Silvestri.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Silvestri. I'm president and publisher of Local Profile, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation and answering any questions that you all may have. And let me introduce our next panelist, Georgia Green.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgia Green, founder and CEO of Be Revolution. We serve in organizational development, leadership, and culture. And I'm so excited to be here with you today to help you live on purpose with passion.
Good morning. I'm Chris Scott, COO of Higher Effect. I'm excited to talk to you today about opening up. Jennifer?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Jennifer Scott, founder and CEO of Higher Effect. Very excited to be back in front of you all today and helping founders find their freedom in getting back to work. Buddy?
Thank you, Jennifer. How are you today? I am Buddy Burrows. I'm Chief Creative Producer for Visual Learning Solutions. We're here to help with any questions regarding technology, video, training, and anything else we can help with. So back to you, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thanks, Buddy. I actually forgot to introduce myself, so if anyone is at home wondering who I am, Rebecca Silvestri, VP of Sales and Marketing for Local Profile Magazine, Collin County's premier publication. Just in case you don't know what it looks like. Let's get started. First question is for Jennifer. What are your suggestions around rehiring or hiring new people as we start retransitioning into opening up? Jennifer?
Thank you, Rebecca. That's a great question, and one that from an HR perspective, we've been answering quite a lot lately. We have a lot of companies who are choosing to use this time as an opportunity to review their priorities for their businesses and being selective about who they're bringing back. So a lot of the questions I'm getting are around the payroll protection program and if employees or employers rather need to rehire the same people if they furloughed them or not. There is no regulation that says you have to have the same exact people on payroll. You have to have the same number of people or more, or the same amount of payroll dollars going out, but not necessarily the same for the individual people. There is guidance, however, that if you are not bringing back the same people, which is completely your prerogative, that you document your reasons why. What you really don't want is, to have any potential view of discrimination, that you are only bringing back a certain class of people or a certain type of person. If you want to document your reasons, is it location, is it salary, is it performance, past performance, those are all completely fine reasons. Just be clear on them to avoid getting a hand slap. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Georgia?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, one other thing that I want to note is, so we're talking a lot about, just kind of legalities around getting people back into the workplace. But I think also as we look forward, it is an amazing time to take a look at what you want your company to be like going forward. And we've kind of had this reset button. So be thinking about with your team, who it is that you want to rehire, and from a culture perspective, making sure that the people that you bring back in actually fit what you want it to be going forward. So we talked in the past episode about a book called Traction. Highly recommend that one. In fact, you can read the book, Get a Grip. It's it's kind of a story about a company that's kind of gone through it as an example. But one of the things that they say is fire all the people in your mind, and then who would you hire back in? And I think this is a great time to kind of be thinking about that. So when you look at what is your organization, what does the future of your organization look like, then who fits that, right? So who actually wants to be there, understands what it takes to bring it to that future state? Do the people that you have do that? And what does the type of person that you need do that? Right now is a great time to be looking at the market because there are a lot of amazing candidates out there. And also we have just proven a work from home model that actually allows you to open up to candidates that may not have been in your local area as well. So the candidate pool is much more open. So it's a great time to really be thinking about who you want in your organization and how to really propel you forward into the future. Rebecca?
Absolutely. I could not agree more, Georgia. And first of all, just to recap what Jennifer said, we don't have to bring back the same people, but if we're not bringing back the same people, it's good to document exactly why. And of course, you might want to talk to a professional about that. And I agree with Georgia. It's a great time to really look inside yourself and think about who are the people I really want on my team and who's a good fit for our culture. I can think that Buddy has something to say about this. Buddy?
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. Just case in point, and now we're talking about business owners, business leaders, entrepreneurs, but from an employee standpoint, a quick case, I noticed somebody who I worked with years ago on LinkedIn, and he had just been let go, not furloughed, let go. Very talented individual. To your point, Georgia and Jennifer's, we're on the lookout for talented people, and he had posted his resume and said, I'm available for work. And I immediately called him, and he's on 2 projects now. And of course, he's working remote. It's not a problem, but he's terrific. And I've been actually watching for this person to be available for some time. So there's opportunity for both employers and employees.
That's really true, Buddy. Absolutely. There's a lot of opportunity out there right now. So moving on to our next question, Jennifer, on the same note, can employees refuse to recall back to work?
They always have the right to, for sure. I think, most of the questions that I'm getting about employee rights during this is, can an employee refuse to go back to work and still collect unemployment? Especially because there's a lot in the news right now about people making more on unemployment than they did with, while they were employed. An employee can refuse to go back to work if that's, that's their prerogative. In most cases, they will not be able to continue to collect unemployment. It is going to depend on the state. It is going to depend on the situation. But for the most part, you have to be available to work to collect unemployment. So if you refuse work and your employer lets the unemployment office know, then in theory, your benefits will stop. That was a great question, though. Thank you.
Absolutely. So just to recap, people, you can refuse to go back to work, but you'll probably lose your benefits. So this is a question we've got from someone online, and I think it's relevant for right now. So Jennifer, how many people are working at companies that are opening up very soon? And what are the top challenges being faced by those companies that might be opening up today or even next week? Or Jennifer or Scott, Chris?
I have no idea how many people are working right now. I mean, that's not a number we can track, unfortunately. We definitely have clients who are slowly reopening, mostly retail and restaurants. There are a lot of challenges that they're facing, and I know we're going to address some of them later. But I think, looking at whether or not it's worth opening at 25% capacity, from a revenue standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, and frankly, from a safety standpoint. Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, specifically on the safety front, the soft open, if you will, this opening now gives you a chance to very, very slowly test your safety setup. I'm sure we'll go into more detail later, but physical distance, practice using your mask, I can't tell you how many times the first time I put on gloves in order to keep myself safe, then I would touch something and then I would touch my face. Like, you might as well just take off the gloves then. And it's a real challenge to build those habits, and it takes practice. So, whether or not you're actually allowing your customers to come in, you want to get used to the new way of performing around them, perhaps before there's too many folks around. Georgia?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot about, kind of what it looked like to reopen from a culture perspective, from a technology perspective. But one thing here, and to go to this question specifically, I think it's important to look at what does the future look like for that business? Because what I'm seeing a lot of is companies who want to hold on to the old way of doing things, the old service offerings, the old operations. And when we say, okay, we're going to do a reopening at 25%, that's assuming old operations, right? But is there a new operation or a new service offering that you can do at 25%? Limited menus, limited service offerings, doing something a little bit different. And taking a look at what it is that you have from a company perspective. When you look at all of your different operations, get your team together and get creative. So we're not going back, right? We're just going forward. And this, like I said earlier, is a great time. We hit a reset button, we're starting new. Don't hold on to the old ways of doing things. Go to something new. Philip?
Well, I think that's great advice. One other thing that we're looking at is in our situation, we have been continuously operating this whole time. The fact is, we will continue during this period, but out of an overabundance of caution for our team and just the realities of the situation that we're finding ourselves in, we have elected to continue working from home and asking our team to continue working from home so that their safety can continue. So I think that that's also something that all of the businesses need to keep in mind. It's not just getting back to normal. It's all about keeping your team safe and keeping everything going as best as possible during these tough times. Georgia, I know you have a little bit more to say on that.
Yeah, it's one of the questions that I'm getting a lot from my clients actually, is that they have some people where the employer is reopening and they're giving the option to come in. And a lot of the leaders are saying, okay, I feel this sense of social pressure to go in, but maybe I don't feel safe, or I can't do that from the perspective of childcare or whatever the reason may be, but they feel a sense of pressure. So for example, if I don't go in, am I going to be judged? Right? What does this mean? And a lot of people are operating in a place of fear because of the furloughs and layoffs that people are experiencing, but they don't want to draw attention to themselves. So they're feeling this kind of pressure, like I have to go in. And so they're asking, how do I deal with that? And one of the things that I'm talking to them a lot is about their culture. So if you are in a fear-based culture, and it may not even be that it is a fear-based culture from a company perspective, but certainly from a societal perspective right now, we have to take a look at that. So it requires very vulnerable, courageous conversations that need to be had. And that is where leadership needs to step up and come in with this. We always say it's an open door policy, but I would say go beyond an open door policy. An open door policy means you are waiting for somebody to walk in your door. Go to your people and ask them what they really think. So instead of having this open door policy, have it a get out of your office policy. Okay. So go talk to your people, have a very candid conversation. How do you really feel? And I want you to know it is safe to come to me and to tell me what you really need and what you really want, and we will make it happen. Because the people who are left right now, those are your people. Those are your great people that you don't want to lose, certainly not to fear or societal pressure. But that's just from a cultural perspective, have those conversations. But I think we do need to also address the liability and the risk around it, because there's certainly some concern there from the flip side of this conversation is the employer side, is they're saying, okay, can I be held liable if I give the option for people to come in, they feel this pressure and then they get sick, or they're just feeling this kind of sense of kind of ominous feeling. So I would love to hear what you have to say about that, Jennifer.
Thank you, Georgia. Luckily, I think that employers and businesses can get around a lot of the legality. Maybe get around is the wrong word, but avoid a lot of the legalities as long as they're following best practices in creating a safe environment, in creating a safe workplace, and following the CDC guidelines, and following the reopening best practices, social distancing, providing hand sanitizer all over the place, providing PPE if you're going to require folks to wear masks, changing some guidelines and policies around hours and schedules to try and minimize the number of people in the offices. There's a lot of things that employers can be proactive in doing. However, although I'm not an attorney, I just play one on TV, I would say that, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health, they have some pretty big issues to deal with, or they're going to, in terms of coronavirus. OSHA protects employees from dangerous work environments. That's their job. So, I think that if employers aren't following best practices, if there is a potential outbreak because the employer was negligent, employees do have the right to file an OSHA complaint, and that could make a whole different conversation from liability standpoint. So, Rebecca, back to you.
Well, that's kind of scary stuff for an employer, huh?
Can be.
But it just reiterates, follow the rules and be up to date with what's going on, and always do the best for you and for your people. We have a great comment from Sandy Mitchell. She's an EOS implementer, and she just wanted to build on to the comments that Georgia made regarding culture, because now really is a great time to really figure out, are the people on your team a great fit? And she says, when you're thinking about that, ask these questions. Do they get it? Do they understand what they need to do in their role? Do they want to do it? Because if you can do something but you don't want to do it, and do you have the capacity to do it well? So those are the three things that you should be considering when you're thinking about rehiring or bringing someone back. Okay, and so to move on, looks like a lot of us are thinking about not opening back up yet. Now, in that case, it's already been nearly 2 months. How do we continue to foster relationships and build teamwork in this crazy environment? Anyone?
I have, some great thoughts about really keeping a sense of belonging and making that a huge important part of the new workplace culture and priorities. I was reading recently, there was a LinkedIn executive who was asked about diversity and inclusion, and what was missing for her was that it's not just about diversity and inclusion, it's about belonging. It's about feeling like you belong, feeling like you're significant, feeling like you have a place and a purpose. And I think really that's what people need to be focusing on now, is fostering that sense of belonging. If I could just switch gears 1 second and go back to the safety concerns. I know that a lot of people have questions around testing. Am I allowed to take employees' temperatures? Am I allowed to test them before returning to work? The EEOC has given some pretty specific guidelines around that, and the answers are yes, again, as long as you're not discriminating. Georgia, I know you have a company that you've been working with that might shed some light on that.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a lot of companies who have been talking to us about how exactly do we make it a safe environment for people to come in without crossing those legal lines, right? Because a lot of companies are concerned about where are they stepping over the lines from a legality perspective. If they do test temperatures, do they need to track those temperatures to ensure that they aren't discriminating? And how do we just ensure that we are going above and beyond to ensure a safe work environment, above hand sanitizer, above the safety restrictions of 6 feet and all of that. So there is a local company called WellHealth who is doing testing on that. And I'd love to see more of what they have to say about this. Buddy?
As our state looks to reopen businesses, a Dallas-based primary care startup, WellHealth, is leading the way in supporting employers in our area by offering a new COVID-19 mobile testing service. WellHealth will work with the organization to determine the best way to set up a safe, seamless, and efficient screening and testing process. WellHealth believes it is important that organizations employ proper testing protocols prior to opening to ensure a COVID-19 free environment. WellHealth is offering COVID-19 testing with results available within 24 to 48 hours and has created a back-to-work program with repeat testing every 7 days for 21 days to ensure negative test results and promote a healthier workplace. Other initiatives that some companies are implementing include requiring temperature checks at entry, spacing cubicles 6 feet apart, removing soda machines and buffet options, increasing sanitization of workplaces, and providing hand sanitizer throughout the office.
So these are all great things that we can do as an organization, is to be thinking through what are we going to provide to our employees to ensure that they feel safe and comfortable. And that does go into a part of our culture as a company. Rebecca?
Very true. Absolutely. Buddy had something to add.
Yes, and it's really interesting that we're talking about all this, and I appreciate what WellHealth is doing. I had actually had one of my employees. They are working with another organization that's a volunteer organization that has suspended their services for now. And again, they're a volunteer organization, a nonprofit, and their biggest concern was liability. Like they were concerned that people would show up and help them do the thing that they do and then run risk of people becoming sick just for being there. Their guests, their quote unquote staff who are volunteers. And that brought the question, and again, this is my team member talking to me. We started talking about, what's the challenge here? A lot of us are remote. Most of my team is remote, but what's our risk we have a video studio here. What's our risk to guests, client types that come here? So it's good to know that there are resources available to us and research that can be done. And one of our thoughts was, and I'll check with our attorney, is do we need to have some type of waiver because customers are coming here voluntarily, right? I mean, they're coming here for a service. So if they were to get sick and there become some type of lawsuit, we just want to make sure, with our attorney and with companies like WellHealth, that we're taking every precaution and that we're as safe as we can be with the confines of the law. So that, that's something we're looking into and part of what we're discussing today in this program. Does anyone else have thoughts on that?
I think it's always good to check with an attorney. We all have feelings and thoughts and emotions around this topic. It's a very sensitive topic. It's an unknown. You don't have someone sign a waiver about their safety if, they might catch a cold or the flu. And not to compare what's going on now with, your typical average everyday virus. But there's just too much unknown. And I would always, from an HR standpoint, recommend speaking to an attorney. It's the best advice we can give. They're staying on top of the laws and the regulations and the changes that are coming out from places like the EEOC and OSHA and the ADA and all the other employment law acronyms out there. It's just, no one has the answers, and better safe than sorry. Rebecca?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I actually did speak to an attorney, although I approached a criminal law attorney because I was fascinated to find out, because with HIV, people have actually been prosecuted for infecting other people. So I said, well, what if you go out knowing you've got COVID-19 and you infect other people? And we had an interesting debate about that. And the conclusion was that she didn't think that it was prosecutable because COVID-19 is so infectious that the other person could have got it from any number of other people. Of course, that is just a theoretical conversation I had with a criminal law attorney, but it was interesting. And working our way back into thinking about, well, if we're going to keep working from home, and I think a lot of people are, now that this work from home model has been proven, and it's been working for a lot of us. What are our thoughts on that? Georgia?
Yeah, I love this question because, I'm a huge forward thinker. Let's go into what the future holds. I love working with innovative, creative companies who are just trying to break through societal norms. And I think now more than ever is the opportunity for companies to do that. So I think there's going to be actually coming up a huge war on talent that's going to be coming. So there's a huge availability of amazing people who are coming into the market, and you can use those people in their visionary strengths to create a future company beyond what you have even right now. So there are huge opportunities. What we've also seen from this work from home model is a lot of reduced costs that are coming out of this. So there is a way, as you're thinking about opening back up, maybe you don't open back up to full capacity in your corporate office, but maybe you do start to take a look at what your work from home policies would look like. So I'll give you a few tips on this, as I do work with a lot of clients on that. So work from home policies, it does save you a lot of overhead. One of the models that we use a lot is the 3 on, 2 off. So what is 3 on, 2 off? So two people share a desk. One person works in the office for 3 days, the other person for 2 days. Then they switch the other week. So then it's 2 and then 3. So you have 2 people sharing one desk. You can double the amount of your workforce with 0 additional costs. And then you give people the freedom and flexibility to work from home while also getting the benefits of being in the work environment. Some people thrive in a work environment, other people do not. So you give them kind of the best of both worlds. You get the culture of being in the office while also getting the productivity that's coming out of the work from home model. So that's just one example. But what I've also seen with our companies that I work with is this actually exposed a lot inside the organization. And what I mean by that is we've realized that we've kind of had this old school model of kind of this button share mentality of you need to be there from 9 to 5, and you are exchanging dollars for hours. When actually the point of it in most organizations, not all, but in most, is output based. So you want to make sure that your business is set up in such a way that you can measure output. And that is where the work from home model will come into play, so that you can, I hear this a lot. How can I trust my people to be working from home? I would argue that they shouldn't even be working for you if you can't trust your people to be working from home. So going back to the culture thing, you want to make sure that you hire and retain the people are more of like your advocates, and they are the people who want to be there and who are producing output. So take a look at your KPIs, take a look at how people can be set up for success. How are you going to measure their contributions to the company against where your future vision is? And that is, part of putting together your amazing work from home policy. And Chris, I know you've got some awesome things to say about this too.
Yeah, there are some very innovative tools that support what you're describing as hot desking. So whether it's phone systems that can be virtual phone systems that can be set up to some days route calls to the desk and other days route automatically to your cell phone, deliver your voicemails as emails with attachments. Your computer setups can be designed so that your folks doing the hot desking, they walk in with their laptop, slap it in the desk, and it's their office. They pick it up, go home. Other folks come in, do the same thing. Now, I think I'd be remiss if you're going to encourage hot desking, then you also want to make sure that you're cleaning those surfaces. It was one thing to share a space before, and you had to be respectful because it's a public space, or at least it's shared with you and 1 or 2 others. Even more now, things to think about. Keyboards are particular sources of, everybody touches them. So, but there are a number of tools, whether it's the online SharePoint, whether it's phone systems. These things will enable hot desking efficiency and allow you to measure productivity, because it's a lot easier to measure productivity when you're all working from a common set of tools. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And Jennifer?
I also wanted to mention, and the work from home model, there are still some really great ways, even if we're not face-to-face physically, that we can be face-to-face anyway. We put a lot of thought into our virtual environment. Our company is 100% virtual anyway. all of our employees work from home, and we work with our clients remotely. But there's still some really great things that we do internally, whether it's, a huddle every single morning with the team, whether there are in-depth weekly check-ins, checking in emotionally too. Like, we'll start our meetings with good news. Tell me something good that happened, either personally or professionally. Share those emotional stories so we can celebrate with you. But we also have, we use Microsoft Teams, which is a part of the Office 365 package. It's just built in. And we set up channels, teams inside there where it's just for like water cooler chatter. It's a kudos channel. It's a, hey, I caught you doing something good, or hey, did you see this funny meme that's going around Facebook, or whatever it is. It's those kinds of conversations that you would typically have in the break room around that proverbial water cooler. So that's still, that's an option to just let people continue to work from home. If you have an office and you want to let them come in, great. But there's, unless you're retail and restaurant, there's certainly some jobs that absolutely cannot be done from home. And I get that. Otherwise, make it optional. My 2 cents. Rebecca?
I absolutely agree. I do think that making it optional is the way forward, and there was already a movement towards that anyway before all of this happened. I think it's about time for us to wrap up. And so my final thoughts would be, and this actually comes from our star commenter, Sandy Mitchell, who posted a reminder that many small businesses are actually launched during a downturn. And when she says small businesses, she means they started off small, but there's actually been many, many large businesses who were launched even during the Great Depression and now huge businesses now. So this might be our opportunity to launch into huge success. I think Philip's got a final thought.
So my final thought is, it's with all of what we're talking about working from home, I've been one of those, I like to have the team in the office. I'm a big advocate. In my mind, it was always very important to be able to walk into somebody's cubicle and have a conversation and exchange thoughts. I am now a convert because I think that what I have seen is if you have the right team, which kudos to our team is amazing. If you have the right team, they are really focused on getting their job done, and being able to give them the tools and give them the direction and get out of the way, I think is something that in my mind has really shown through as an opportunity to do more of this. And how else can we find to support our team that isn't necessarily having everybody in the office? Jennifer.
That's a great point, Philip. We actually have a client who has found that his team is actually more productive working remotely. That they are collaborating in Google Meet, that they're working together to solve problems, that they're getting things done as a team that were, things that took a lot longer when they had to get up and go to somebody's office. Now that they're, literally able to work together while still at their own desks, getting things done has been a huge plus for them. So I think that was a great point. Georgia?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. The other thing that we're seeing with work from home is that people's work is shifting. So instead of staying in one spot for a really long time, people are working in short bursts. And there's a lot of data that actually backs this to create more productivity and more output. So say, for example, a person works for 30 minutes to an hour, they get up, they do something for 5-10 minutes, they come back, they actually have more brain power, more creativity. And my final thought, and I'll leave you with this, is along those creativity and innovation lines, you guys, we have an amazing opportunity to paint the picture for what we want our businesses to look like going forward. And I'm not just saying your business, I'm saying the society of businesses. What do we look like collectively? And then how might we as an individual business play a part in that movement? And this isn't to say that we're dishonoring everything that was in the past. It's to say that worked for that time. We are at a new time. So those old practices, those old ways of doing businesses may not play a part here. So I'm not asking you to take a look at what's wrong and fix it. I'm asking you to look forward and challenge yourself to think about how might you optimize? How might you be even better by doing something differently? And use your team in that. As a leader, you do not have to have it all figured out. And in fact, I would challenge you to not do that. It is not about having the vision and assigning the tasks out. It's about pulling together your top talent, all of the strengths of that team to determine how we're going to move forward and where we're going as a business. So that would be my challenge to you, is to forward think, use your amazing power of imagination, grab your team, and let's go make something awesome. Rebecca?
Let's make something awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. This has been Pivot, Pause, Promote. Today was our last episode of this particular show. However, I'd like to encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Local Profile. We'll be doing lots more series like this. Up next and launching on this coming Monday, May 4th, is our Local Leaders series. Our first speaker who will be joining me is Marilee Kick. She's the founder and CEO of Buzzballs Southern Champion. She was a teacher, had a great idea for a circular drink container, and has now gone national and is now the owner of the largest women-owned distributing an alcohol company in the US. So she's an incredible woman. I hope you'll join me on Monday. We'll actually be live on Facebook, and we'll put the link down below. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have the best day ever. Bye-bye.